Hello. Today I'm going to give you my thoughts on beauty. The reason I am bringing this up is a few days ago I went and saw the new Aquaman movie. I didn't really expect it to be very good, but the main reason I went is because when I was a kid, I was a big fan of Black Manta from the Super Friends. And so I kind of wanted to see if he would get his due. So that's the main reason I went. But the movie wasn't great. I didn't really expect it to be. But I did like Black Manta in it, so that made me kind of happy. The kid part of me happy. But one thing I noticed while I was in the theater is the ugliness of the movie in so many ways. And it got me to thinking about not just films, but media in general, from my childhood, but also modern media and kind of the decline of it. So I wanted to discuss it a little bit today. If you like what you see here, you can subscribe, ring the bell, all that stuff. But let's get into it. So I should preface everything by saying that I went to an art college for bookmaking, and one of my favorite classes I took there with a great professor was called Beauty, just simply called Beauty. And it was a class I sort of had to take, like an elective, but I had to take a few of these, and I kind of had a choice between a few different classes, but I opted to take Beauty. And I have to say, it blew my mind, and it really made me look at the world differently. So what I want to talk about mainly is how the computer has kind of ruined beauty, in my opinion, on many levels. So the first thing to say is, there are a lot of things that make something beautiful. When I was in this class, I learned a lot about how, ideals, symmetry, the design, order versus disorder and balance, and the golden section, all this stuff that can make something be very beautiful. But the other thing I learned is that there are many forms of beauty, and some of them are not what you would typically consider to be beauty. And an example of that would be the abject. And the abject is more like, if you consider, like, the surrealists have a certain amount of beauty in their work. But another movement that was happening around the same time were the Dadaists. And the Dadaists were trying to destroy order, basically, and make a lot of disorder through collage and through other means. And that's basically what the abject is destroying what we perceive as beauty to make a new kind of beauty, which often can be kind of have a darkness to it, or something that makes us feel kind of uncomfortable. Another example of that would be Hans Belmer, who I've mentioned in some other videos. He has these dolls that he kind of reshapes and puts in different configurations that just seem wrong, and that's basically what the abject is. Another form of beauty is kitsch, and you see kitsch all the time, especially in advertising. Those kind of paintings that you might see at a flea market or something, where there's like dogs playing cars or something. That's kitsch. It is basically kind of art with a sense of humor, I guess. But even like some kind of doll making could be kitsch. I guess, even to a degree, like Cabbage Patch Kids or Pokemon even is kind of kitsch in a way. But what I noticed in this movie that kind of just disturbed me a lot is the design of pretty much everything in the movie just missed the mark in so many ways. First thing I would say are the minions of the evil bad guy not Black Manta. Black Manta was actually designed well, I think, of all the things, but there was already kind of a design existing for that, so it's easy to kind of copy that. The Sauron-like villain, let's say, from Lord of the Rings, there's one in this that's like that kind of Sauron vibe, and spoilers, minor, I guess. It was just very, very poorly designed. And his minions were equally poorly designed. And they were very... there's this kind of cut and paste CGI that I see a lot, where if they want something to look scary, it looks a certain way. Kind of like the undead from like Pirates of the Caribbean or something. And it's very... I just think it's lazy. And if you're going to compare it to something, if you compare it to like Peter Jackson's films with his design, there's stellar design in those movies. So it can be done right, at times. It's just many people do it wrong. And I don't know if it's laziness or a lack of money, or maybe these days people get churned through computer graphics school and they don't really take a lot of design. I'm not sure. Or maybe they just don't have the time to do it properly. I don't know. But it just doesn't look good. And even, on the other hand, even the sort of underwater fish characters and all the other kind of non-human characters were also not designed well, in my opinion. They were, excuse me, they were more on the kitsch side, let's say, but not endearing, if that makes sense. Now, if I compare this to some other films I can think of from a while ago, especially films from my childhood, one film comes to mind that is beautifully designed, and it's an animation, is The Last Unicorn. If you've never seen The Last Unicorn, you should definitely see that movie. That is a beautiful movie. Every frame of that movie is like a painting. Yes, it's animation, but there's this level of flow and just, it's almost luscious, if that makes sense. Another film that comes to mind that is a little bit darker is The Belladonna of Sadness, which is a Japanese film, which is kind of animated partly, but a lot of it are like watercolor paintings. That movie is beautiful. I mean, there's so many great designs that were even done. I mean, most of these are practical, but a lot of the fantasy movies of the 1980s, I think, have a lot of great design in them. Something like Tron, let's say, or the movie Crawl. If you've never seen Crawl, that has excellent design in it as well. And I just don't know what's going on. If it's because of the computer, because many of those movies are computer graphics, or just at the cusp of the beginning of it, or modern studios just don't care that much and they just want to get the product out and kind of drive the story quickly and not really worry about the minutia of how it looks, which I think is probably the case. But it just bothers me. CGI just bothers me, and I always know it immediately when I see it. It's very rare where I'm tricked by it. There is some very minor CGI in like a Christopher Nolan film. In that case, I'm usually tricked by it because he knows how to use it. But in these movies, it's just so over the top that the sort of it destroys like the uncanny valley kind of, and our brains know that. It's kind of like AI. If you've seen some AI art, yes, it can produce it quite quickly and it can produce what you want, but it also has this feeling when you look at it. And it's just our brains know that it was not made by a human. I don't know how our brains know exactly. I mean, I know a lot of it has to do with how our eyes see proportion in things and symmetry, but I don't know, like 10 years ago, the graphics were not even as good, but I think maybe the design was better. So I definitely think there's a decline and it's going downhill fast. Even if you think of like a lot of the early Marvel movies or something, the design was pretty good. Someone like Ultron, let's say, from one of the Avengers movies, it's a pretty good design, I think. It serves its purpose, let's say. But, I don't know. I think it's very ugly. And not ugly in a grotesque way, but ugly in a way that is almost hard to watch. That's kind of how I felt when I was watching the movie, especially the second half of the movie where there was a lot of heavy fighting and CGI. It just made me feel kind of ill. And I just think that that's our natural human instinct kicking in. And I'm not the only person that feels this way. I see videos online all the time about people getting tired of this kind of CGI spectacle. And I don't think it's actually, I don't know. I want to believe it's not the tool, it's the artist. Because I feel like any tool can be used by an artist to create something great. I think it might just be the fact that a lot of these productions have thousands of people working on them, and so there's no distinct vision. And once you do that, there's just kind of sloppy, and I think most of it looks pretty sloppy. So I don't know. Even like a lot of animated cartoons, I kind of don't like the Minions. The Minions I don't think are well designed. I know people love them, but I think it's kind of lazy, and it's just not using all of the rules, elements, and principles of design to try to make something better. I think it's just kind of lazy. And when I watch these films or see posters on the wall, or I see a piece of AI art or something, it just doesn't do it for me. Just doesn't feel real to me. Now, when I say that, it's strange because I actually use the computer when I make my art, but I don't use it the way that they probably use it. I use it to like sort of cut things out or take things and move them around and kind of draw a little bit. But I think there's this stock way in which to use it, especially if the image is moving, which is what often is the case in films. And I don't know, I just think it's lazy. So that's about all I have for this video. But if you have anything to say about this topic, what do you think about these kind of movies? I'm getting frankly pretty tired of them. I probably shouldn't even have went, but I was hoping for more and it didn't really live up to it. But anyway, if you want to like and subscribe or anything like that, go ahead. Or if you want to ask me a question, or if you have any experience where you've noticed this in terms of how ugly everything has become, let me know in the comments. Anyway, have a good day. Take care. Bye-bye.